Доброго дня. Ми
Good
раді
afternoon.
моїм старим товаришем і
I'm
другом
very happy to be
Павлом
here
Сушком,
together with a good friend of mine,
головою
Pavlo Sashko,
підкомітету з
who is the
питань
head of
кіно
the
та
subcommittee at the Parliament of Ukraine
реклами,
on cinema and
розпочати
advertising
панель
at the Verkhovna Rada,
«Кіно в
to
Україні.
start this panel about the
COVID-19.
cinema in Ukraine during the times of COVID-19.
Шоу має тривати».
The show must go on is the
І
name of this sector.
називається «Шоу має тривати». «Show must go on».
The show must go on, as I said.
І ми вдячні
And we are grateful
проекту
to
СЕП за те, що в
the
рамках
SEP project, because in the framework of the project, which talks about Ukraine's faring in these difficult events, USAID has been helping to
В
conduct the
рамках
sector
проекту, який ми
Creative Ukraine.
спільно здійснюємо з
Within
СЕПом і
the
Міністерством
framework
культури,
that we
ми
have
говоримо
been
про
realizing
кіно
this
як
project
кластер,
together
де
with
готові
the Minister of
просувати
Culture of Ukraine,
кілька
we're talking
речей.
here about
Це і
cinema as
промоція
a
кіно,
cluster, we're
інновації,
talking
це
about
також
innovations, promotions,
нові навички
new skills
кінематографістів,
gaining for
навчання, і це,
cinema
безперечно,
makers,
створення
learning, training, and of
конкурентно-спроможного
course this is
середовища
to do about
і інфраструктури
this
для
goes
того, щоб
about training the
кіно могло
proper
в Україні
infrastructure to make
відбуватися.
sure that cinema happens in
Ми
Ukraine, becomes a reality.
говоримо і,
Today we're
сподіваюсь, будемо
talking
говорити на
and
цій
hopeful
панелі
that we
про
will be talking
успішні
within this
кейси,
panel
які ми вже
about
знаємо,
success
в тому числі і
case
завдяки
stories
системі,
that we are
розробленій
aware
парламентом
of, also
кеш-рібейтів, адже це
cash
не
rebate
тільки
system created
пряма
by the
допомога
Parliament of Ukraine,
кінематографістам
because
у
this is not
вигляді
just about the
державного
direct
фінансування,
assistance
але й
to
багато речей,
movie
які
makers
дозволяють в
in
Україні
Ukraine
знімати фільми, такі
offered
як
by the
«Останній
state, but
найманець»,
it's also
зняти в
about the
Україні, в
possibility
Києві,
to shoot films
завдяки
in
системі
Kyiv, like
кеш-рібейтів,
the
яка
Rust
була
recruit,
запущена.
and it was again
Сподіваюся, що
realized because of
сьогоднішні
the
кейси,
system
про
of
які
cash
ви будете
rebates.
говорити,
I hope that today
надихнуть
the
вас
success cases
і
we'll be talking
насправді
about will
занурять,
definitely
допоможуть
inspire you
зануритися
and
і
will
в
help
проблеми
you to
кіно, і
delve both
можливості
into the
надзвичайні,
problems of the
які
cinema
має
making as
кінематограф,
well as
із
the
залучення
opportunities that the
інвестицій
cinema
і
has to
створення
offer in
конкурентноспроможного
attracting and inviting
українського
investment
продукту.
and
І готовий
creating
передати
a
слово
very
Павлові.
reliable Ukrainian
Дякую, пане
product. And now
Олександре.
I give the floor to
Взагалі, в
Mr.
нас так
Oleksandr
склалося,
Sushko.
що
Thank you.
у нас дуже
It
тісна
just so
і плідна
happens
співпраця
that
з
we have been
міністерством, тому що
fruitfully
Олександр
cooperating
очолював
with the Ministry
наш
of
комітет
Culture.
і
Alexander
знає
used
всю
to be the head of our
проблематику,
committee,
яка
and he knows
відбувається
very well the
при прийнятті
problems, the
законів.
urgency
І
of
тому
these problems, especially
я
when we
вважаю,
have
що
to
це
pass new
сама ефективна
legislation into
співпраця
effect. I believe that this is
парламентської
the
роботи
most
та
productive
виконавчої влади.
work of
Доброго дня,
state
шановні друзі. Ще
authorities
раз,
and executive authorities in
кіно –
Ukraine.
це
Thank you very much
одна
indeed
із важливих
for inviting me
галузей,
today. You should know
яка
that cinema is one of the most important
дуже динамічно
industries,
розвивається
which is
і
dynamically
є
evolving in Ukraine
вагомою
and
складовою
worldwide, and the
державної
key
інформаційної політики та
element
інформаційної самоідентифікації громадян.
it is a key
Нами
element in the
було завдяки
self-identification
пану
and
Олександру
information policy
створено
development in
підкомітет
Ukraine. And we have
кінематографії
created a
і
subcommittee on
реклами.
cinema and
І це
advertising.
вперше в історії було.
This was done for
І
the
в
first
нас є
time ever in
можливість
history.
відокремити
And now we have a
ці два
possibility
напрямки,
to
а
single
саме,
out
зокрема,
these two
кіногалузь,
areas, that is to say
проблематику,
filmmaking,
яка є в
and
кіногалузі,
distinguish
і
it from
ефективно і швидко вирішувати ці
how to
проблеми.
solve the
І
problems
завдяки
related to
роботі
it
підкомітету
quickly
та
and
робочої групи,
effectively.
до
Because
якої
of this
залучені
subcommittee and the
представники
task
кіногалузі, нами за
that
рік роботи
involves
вже
the
є
workers
досягнуто
of the
певних
movie
результатів,
theater. We
зокрема,
have achieved certain
прийнятий
results.
закон
That
про
is to say,
кеш-рібейти
the
та
cash
внесені
rebate
зміни до
legislation
законодавства, які
and
регулюють ці
the
питання.
amendments
Як казав пан
passed into
Олександр,
effect to the
закон про
legislation
діяльність
of
кінокомісії,
Ukraine, the law on the
закон
activities of
про
film
приєднання
commissions,
України
the
до,
law
нарешті,
on
до
joining,
системи
on
Єврімаж,
Ukraine's joining
і
of
ми є повноправними
Euro-Image.
членами, що
And now
відкриває
we
нам
are
нові
fully
горизонти
fledged
для
member of
співпраці.
Euro-Image, which opens up new prospects for Ukraine.
Законопроект 3377,
This is also the bill
який,
5337,
завдяки якому
due to which
держава може
the
підтримувати
state can support
кіноіндустрії і
filmmaking
креативні
industry
індустрії,
and
які
creative
постраждали під
industry
час
and the sector
пандемії.
overall during the
Законопроект
virus
3060, який
times.
звільняє
And bill
від
360
ПДВ
that
на
exempts
експорт
from
при
paying tax,
виробництві
especially when
аудіовізуальних
making
творів.
audiovisual products in
Законопроект
Ukraine.
3851
Bill 3751
про внесення змін до
about
податкового кодексу,
introducing amendments
де
to
ми
the tax
ввели
legislation in Ukraine,
таке
where we
поняття, як
introduce a notion
культурний, так називаємо
the
культурний
so-called
податок,
cultural
7%.
tax or
Ми
deduction to the amount of
зробили
7%.
прийняли таку норму
We have passed the norm
щодо
into
інклюзії,
effect that talks
що
about
кінотеатри
the
звільняються
fact
від
that cinemas
ПДВ,
are
якщо вони
exempt of paying
роблять субтитри
VAT
для осіб з
if
порушенням
they
слуху та тифлокоментар
make
для
special
осіб з
subtitles
порушенням
for the people
зору.
who are visually
При,
or hearing
прийняли,
impaired.
значить,
We have
приєдналися
also joined
Пройшла ратифікація
We
угоди
have
з Канадою.
ratified an agreement with
Це теж
Canada.
довгоочікувана індустрія.
This was also a much-awaited
А також
agreement
ще
to
в
come
нас
into
дуже багато
force.
роботи,
We
і,
also
зокрема,
have a
можу
lot of
розказати
ground to
про
cover, and
перші
I can just also
шляхи,
share with
над
you
якими ми
about some of the
працюємо.
first
Ми
steps that we
працюємо
have
над системою
undertaken. We are
кешрібейтів,
working
що дасть,
on the system of
вибачаюсь,
cash
над
rebates
єдиним електронним квитком,
and
що
on
дасть
a
можливість
single e-electronic ticket
прозорості
that
ринку,
will
аналізу
ensure
ефективності
transparency of the
розподілу
market, the
державної
analysis
підтримки
of the
і так далі.
distribution of the state support budget, and
Плануємо
etc. We're also
вдосконалити
planning to improve
процес
process
виділення
of
кешрібейтів,
cash
отримання
rebates
кешрібейтів, щоб
allocation
прибрати
and
максимально людський фактор.
to ensure that no human
Працюємо
factor
спільно з
involves,
Міністерством
is
цифрової
involved or
трансформації
interferes, and we are
над
working with the
інтеграцією
Ministry
в
of
застосунок
Digital
«Дія».
Transformation within the framework of
Працюємо
the
над
action campaign
новими
called
правилами
Action
пітчингу
DM. We are also
щодо
working
державної
on the
підтримки.
pitching
Йдеться комплексна
sessions
робота
in
про
order to
внесення
allocate
змін
money
до
to
закону про
filmmaking in
кінематографію,
Ukraine. We are
про
also
підтримку
working on
кінематографії в Україні.
the development of the legislation and
Ми
amendments
хочемо
to be
ввести ще одне
introduced to the
поняття,
legislation about cinema making in
розширити
Ukraine. We also
поняття
want to
телевізійні серіали
extend
та
the
серіали для
notion of TV
VOD-платформ.
series and TV series for VOD platforms.
Хочемо зафіксувати
We also
суму
want to
для
record an amount
кеш-рібейтів
for cash rebates
в програмі підтримки кінематографії
and
близько
record it in
20%.
the
Якщо ми
program
кажемо, що
on
Україна відкрита
supporting cinema at the level of
для
20%,
іноземних
because
виробників, то ми
we say
повинні
Ukraine
якось
is open to
гарантувати,
foreign
що ці
filmmakers, so we
виробники
have to
отримують
guarantee
кошти.
that these producers definitely will get their money back.
Переглянути повноваження
We also
функціонування
want to
Ради з
review the
державної підтримки
authorities
кінематографії
of
щодо
the
виділення цих
Council
кеш-рібейтів,
on the
тому
support
що
of television and radio
законом зараз
production in
передбачено,
Ukraine,
що
because
Рада
the law right now
оцінює
stipulates that
можливість
this council
надання
looks into opportunities
виділення
to
кеш-рібейтів.
provide the amounts of
Хочемо
cash
залишити тільки,
rebates, and
щоб
we
Рада
want to make sure that this council
оцінювала
only assesses
виділення
and
додаткових
evaluates
5%
extra 5%
до цих 25%.
to the 25% already stipulated
І
in
взагалі
the
хочемо привести
legislation. And
до
generally,
відповідності
we want to
термінологію,
bring
яка
the
в нас є.
terminology
У
in
нас
line,
дуже багато термінів, які
because we have a lot of
використовуються в
terms
сучасному кіно,
used in contemporary
запозичених
cinema borrowed
в
from
інших країнах,
other
а це ніяк не
countries,
співпадає з нашим
which
законодавством.
unfortunately
Тому
doesn't
ми
go in
працюємо.
line with
Я
our
дякую
current
і
Ukrainian legislation.
USAID, і
I would like to
дякую
thank USAID
всім кіновиробникам, які
and
долучаються
all
до
movie
цих
makers
напрацювань. Я
and
впевнений, що ми
producers in
спільними
Ukraine who get
зусиллями
involved with our
найближчим
efforts, because
часом
I'm sure that our joint efforts in the nearest future will
досягнемо тих результатів,
contribute to the
тієї
achieving the
мети,
results and the
яку ми перед собою
goals that we
поставили.
set for ourselves.
І хочу передати
Now I would like to pass
слово
the
наступне
floor
Джеймсу Хоупу.
So today we're going to hear an impressive lineup of panelists, and we hope that these discussions will inspire decision makers at all levels, national, local, and the industries themselves to join forces. In this partnership, we can remove unnecessary regulatory barriers, introduce attractive and predictable incentives, build and retain a skilled workforce, and develop an ecosystem to globally promote Ukraine's creative industries and Ukraine's cultural brand. And let's not forget the multiplier effect of film production on the economy through location hire, transport, catering, and other services. These are all the building blocks to make Ukraine's creative industries and the economy as a whole more competitive and attractive to investors, domestic and international. So at USAID, we are really proud of the partnership. We look forward to working more and more intensely together on this. Dusha diakuyu, thank you, and the show must go on.
That helped to create a database of Ukrainian talents and also the profiles of the Ukrainian companies that will be advertised in all over the world. The COVID situation has actually affected a lot, as Mr. Tkachuk was telling in the beginning of the forum. It affected the tourism and creative industry really badly, and not only like the industry itself, but the people. You know, one of the speakers today, Nisha Berry, former chairman of Irish Film Commission, was supposed to talk and speak about their experience and best practice, could not make it because he has been hospitalized and got like complications from COVID. My heart goes to everyone who has been affected by this disease, and I hope you and your loved would recover soonest. We understand that Ukrainian creative industry has enormous potential, and our support will help to survive the challenges of this during these difficult times, so that the industry would come out as even stronger and competitive. Ultimately, we want to make sure that our support will help to creative industry to survive this pandemic, be able to find the new clients and operate in these new conditions. This is just the start of our support. As I mentioned, we have a lot of other programs to come, and we will be looking at closely working with the private sector, with SMEs, and collaborating with our partners, Ministry of Culture and Informational Policy, and other governmental organizations to promote the more productive and competitive creative industries in Ukraine. I also want to mention about the fact that there are several people who have been involved in promoting Ukraine in the past. Those prominent producer and directors will be actually present today. I invite you to stay tuned because you will be able to see and watch the lively discussion with those producers, the award winners, and as well as we'll be able to chance to connect to France with Jean-Charles, who will be sharing his experience bringing Netflix to Ukraine, as well as we will talk to Craig Mazin, who also was a screenwriter and the producer of Chernobyl TV series. So stay tuned. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the next speaker of this panel. And I wish you productive discussions and thank you. Please stay safe.
Hello. So this is Jean-Charles Lévy. First of all, thank you to the Minister of Cultures. Thank you to USA. And thank you everybody in the participate. What I wanted to do, and I'm going to do it right away, is to share with you guys a little presentation that I've prepared. Do you see it? Sorry. I hope, sorry. Up. Okay, yes, it should be good. Okay, so basically, I will first introduce myself. So originally, I'm from a company called Forecast Pictures, which has been existing for 17 years. This company is basically a production company, mostly doing international feature films. I've also created another company called Trinity Media Financing in Los Angeles, which is basically a company which is doing mostly financing. Okay, so these are the types of films I've been doing. I've been doing horror films. So horror films is one genre. I've been doing films which more have a and humanity targeted content, and movie for the pure entertainment. I have created my my friends Vlad Renich and Julia Temenko a company in Ukraine about 2 years ago called Apple Vision. So this company is a joint venture between my French company, Forecast Pictures, between Star Media, which you all know, and another company called Wild Track, which is a Belgium company from my partner, Olias Barco. So we have created Apple Tree Production, which is now doing both production service and also production in Ukraine. So the mandates of Apple Tree is basically to bring movies to Ukraine, to expose the local know-how and the local culture for international industries, to use as much as possible Ukrainian technicians and help them. Go ahead. Of course, to benefit from the cost of production in Ukraine. And at the end, the target is really to export Ukrainian culture and know-how. Uh, the perspective of the company, we shot last year a big feature film for Netflix. And in the coming year, we already have 4 projects, 2 that are shooting at the beginning of the year, which are production services. And 2 that are more co-productions between the partners of Apple Tree Vision. One of them, which is a pure Ukrainian film. I want to quickly talk about the challenges we faced because of COVID during the shooting we did this summer. We were lucky because Netflix was behind it, so it had no impact on the cash flow because we had the protection of Netflix. We have put together a very extensive protocol with local authorities, with hospital number 1, which are very useful and which have been very efficient. And which allowed us to have very little number of cases on the shoot. So we had the luck of not having to stop the shoot. So we have trained local Ukrainian people to be our experts on the shoot. That can now be used for further productions. And it has allowed us to get some expertise in the costs of the COVID, in the cost of the measures, and the isolations protocols. I was asked to go quickly, so I will go to the point. So we definitely love shooting in Ukraine. I have to say that everybody that we have brought to Ukraine in the last 2 years and that have been shooting all want to come back and liked their experience there.
Розхідна частина.
And when I'm talking about experience, it's the people, the hospitality, the way of living, but also the technicians and the professionalism on set. So for us, obviously, the big push has been the 25% cash rebate and the suppression of the VAT for foreign productions. But I've been thinking about what we can improve in the Ukrainian ecosystem in order to help bring more productions. So these are the few suggestions. The first one is the language, because this is still a barrier for some technicians. Some way of working which can be more welcoming to foreign producers who are not used to so many cash payments, to not getting the VAT back, and to not using international standard softwares. And also, despite everybody's will to help and to be as supportive as possible, we still had some issues regarding the customs and some authorizations. So for me, this is where we need to improve. Uh, Now, in terms of the cash rebate, we also have a few suggestions. Go ahead. So the number one is really to help foreign producers to get the certainty that at the end of delivering what is necessary to file, they will effectively get the product, the cash rebate. Because right now, although it exists, people think it's theoretical for them because they have never experienced it. And it's the same for the banks and financial institutions, so they cannot incorporate it in their financing plan. It's basically a cherry on the cake at the end. So one suggestion could be what happens in Morocco, for example, where the producer pays 10% upfront himself of what he expects is going to be in order to reserve a certain line in the budget of the government. And then the government puts it away for that specific movie, for that specific number, and is engaged to paying it, which means financial institutions can pay upfront. The second point is what is non-qualifying cost today, which we feel could be qualifying in the future. Which are elements that are qualifying in most of the countries I've been working over the world, like Canada, UK, Germany, France, such as the one that are listed here, the producer fees of the Ukrainian producer, hotel expenses which are incurred in Ukraine through Ukrainian companies, and travel expenses which are basically paid in Ukraine using a Ukraine company like Ukrainian Airlines. And the per diem, which is paid locally, for example, to either Ukrainian technicians or foreign technicians, but the per diem usually is spent in Ukraine. Voilà. I was asked to be quick, so I tried to be as quick as possible, and now I'm happy to talk about questions or anything else. Julia?
Hi, Jean-Charles. My name is Julia Moroszewska, and I'm helping CP with the program of development of the creative economy. And we have a few questions for you. Uh, first of all, it's a great honor that you're participating, and we are super grateful that you brought this amazing project to Ukraine. So the question is, like you had this huge experience shooting in different locations, different genres, from Canada to Ukraine, from animation to horror movie. So what are the best genres for shooting in Ukraine? What is your niche in global film industry?
I think there is really no specific genre. We just shot a very big action comedy, which is in French but geared to the international market. We are shooting another comedy, a science fiction film, a horror movie, and an art house movie this year. So I think really Ukraine is open to any genre. I think what is really exciting for everybody in Ukraine is the quality of the technicians and the variety of the landscapes. And what we cannot find as landscape, the fantastic part about Ukraine technicians is you have some of the best production designers in the world, so you can recreate something that you don't have.
That's great to hear. But you have a financial background. So from the financial point of view, how efficient is it to shoot in Ukraine?
But for me, it was the first draw. It was really the first draw, which was the high level of technicians compared to the low level of pay, basically. So the reality is that today Ukraine can be at the top in terms of quality because you have all the technicians, the equipment, the sound stages, and everything you need. So it's really a matter of doing the right mayonnaise and put all of this together to get the right recipe at the end. But to answer about the financing, it's true that the big advantage is to be able to do high level movies in terms of casting and talent with a lower cost for what we called below the line, which is the physical production budget. And in today's world, it's super attractive to most of the producers, honestly.
Okay, so what will be your next project in Ukraine then?
So we have these two movies, which are production services, which we start in January. One of them is the sequel of a French comedy, and the other one is a science fiction thriller for Canal Plus in English speaking language. And after that, as producers, we do have a Ukrainian movie, which is an art house movie about World War II. World War II, yeah. And the other one is a pure, very commercial horror movie.
Okay, I see. I'm wishing you all the good luck with the future projects, and we're happy to have you in Ukraine as our ally in developing Ukrainian creative industries. And
Thank you very much. And in whichever way we can help develop the Ukrainian industry for cinema and television, the most happy we are. Because my feeling is there is no competition, it's just a synergy of various talents that we hope we try to help.
it will. So we are moving to our next panel, and we'll see you hopefully soon in Kyiv offline.
In 3 weeks. Спасибо.
Окей. Так, як у нас зв'язок?
How is our connection?
No, yes, that's true.
I can hear it.
Okay. Are we online already?
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome. First of all, welcome to discussion panel of putting Ukraine on the global creative map in the most Yes, and in the post-quarantine era and challenges and opportunities. First of all, I want to thank the Ministry of Culture for inviting me to moderate this panel. It's a big honor for me because we have here the best people in Ukrainian film industry. Today in this panel, we have the best. We would like to discuss all important questions with all executives and CEOs of key production studios of Ukraine film industry. In the post-quarantine period, they have not only implemented international commercial projects, but developed and produced feature films. Their experience is one of the utmost value for our understanding of how the pandemic affect the Ukrainian film industry. How dramatic its consequences, and even more, whether Ukraine is successfully adapting to the new normal. It's a very creative panel, so we can feel free here and we can discuss and we can add some questions. And unfortunately, it's online. It's better, of course, to feel this energy. But anyway, okay. Let's start from Darko. Darko Skugin is a U.S. citizen with Ukrainian roots. He's co-founder of Radioactive Film. All Ukrainian industry know who is this guy. He's the cool producer who makes the coolest commercials. The Radioactive Films known for its works the Radioactive is known for its work with HBO brands like Heineken, Stella Artois, Subaru, Renault, Google, Nokia, Lexus, Lenovo, Apple, etc., etc., etc. Okay, Darko, what do you think about this 2020 year? It's a very hard year for industry in the world and in Ukraine. And how your company reacted on the pandemic?
На какой язык мне говорить, чтобы не дублировать, чтобы все не слышать два раза тот же самый язык? Because I'm getting...
We can switch.
Which language should we speak?
Просто чтобы всем остальным было слышно.
To make sure that everyone can hear what I say.
We can switch on Ukrainian if you like.
Мені все равно, я просто хочу, щоб всі остальні слышали.
I don't mind. I want to make sure that everyone else can hear me.
Хорошо. 2020 год был,
The year 2020 has been really complicated. Ви можете говорити далі, я буду перекладати, не переживайте.
Мені просто сложно, щоб ви говорите, коли я говорю, я стараюся.
А ви не можете виключити цей переклад мій, так? У вас там не виходить?
Ні, всі слышно вас. Я не знаю, якщо скажете, як.
Я не знаю, я не технік.
Да, я теж.
Ну, давайте тоді послідовно, мабуть, так, щоб не накладалися один на одного.
Давайте. Наши люди, що слушают нас сейчас, не слушают по-английски, или по-украински, русски, или...
People who are listening to us, which language can they hear us in? English, Russian, Ukrainian? The international audience are listening to you in English. That's why we are speaking all English in this panel.
I know how to speak English very well. I'll do English. So, first of all, I'd just like to say that thank you for inviting me to the panel. unlike everybody else on this panel, which I respect greatly, I all of their work. I do a little bit more work that I do pre-creative work. When these people that they say they develop projects, they do creative work. They take projects from A to Z, while I take projects in the middle. And do my best job to visualize what people like what them do. So, so 2020 has been a very challenging year, obviously. There was probably for most of us, there's a good at least 3-4 months that most of us didn't work at all. Uh, However, we as a company were able to come out of it rather strong and quickly because our commercial business and our feature business were both able to start working quickly in June, July, August, September. One of the keys was that the Ukrainian government was very supportive in helping people come into the country if they were coming in for business reasons, not just for tourism, which helped us a lot. But I think we're seeing the next cycle of difficulties for business coming up as until people understand the full end of this pandemic. She's not going to. So it's another. I can go a little bit quicker. Can you repeat what you want me to say? I kind of got bit a little bit with her pereklad. Just the difficulty of 2020, or how are we coming out of it? What else would be interesting for the viewers to know what we're doing?
It's interesting what challenges you faced in this year with production, with new rules, like pandemic rules, like new reality, maybe some changes. That can be interesting.
Well, I think the biggest challenge was trying to was adding another layer to the overall production process, which is already difficult in itself, and trying to add this level of safety and how you're going to take care of one another and have some kind of social responsibility to each other, in order to try to keep everybody in kind of their bubbles or whatnot. We were lucky enough to, as the pandemic started, to work with very big companies. We were doing a job right now with a company called Quibi, which just closed, but it was a big American company, kind of like a Netflix, but on a much smaller scale.
Right.
That we were doing a big project with them and learning, and doing a couple of Apple projects and a couple of feature projects. We were able to take all of these protocols that these large companies had and implement them into the work we do, setting up bubbles and rings. So one bubble would be just the camera crew with director and the lead actors. They could only eat in certain, with certain people. So we implemented a lot of these things. I think that this will stay implemented for a long time, even though as this pandemic is going on, we're starting to realize it's scary because we don't know how to solve it, but it's not as scary as we saw in March when we wouldn't go outside without gloves, masks, and or at least we were told not to. So I think people are being a lot safer as far as that goes. I think it still will be challenging for another 2 quarters in the local market, but I think that Ukraine has shown a huge resilience, and at least in my sphere in the service industry, has actually grown to a much higher level during this pandemic, with awareness and whatnot.
Okay, and what are the main obstacles that you are facing when bringing international projects to Ukraine?
Well, today or over the years, it's been it's two different
over the years.
stories.
Over the year, because we're talking about the industry and the steps,
Yeah, I mean, I think over the years, it's just been education. Again, my business is a little bit different from what the rest of the panelists are doing. For me, it was a nonstop constant meetings with different levels of people, you know, doing music videos, then doing big music videos, then doing big commercials, and then finally doing, you know, a Netflix show, and then doing, you know, a movie with, you know, with Warner Brothers, and then after Warner Brothers doing HBO. So, but it's, you know, but this is over 25 years that we've been doing it, you know, and it was a constant learning process, not learning process, teaching process to explain to people who we are, what we can do, and kind of grow and grow and grow. Now, with all the work that's coming out of Ukraine, including what we're doing and all these people that are doing here, it's much easier. You know, after we did, for example, where we were involved in Chernobyl, after that project, for us to walk into any studio anywhere in the world, whether it's Canal Plus in France or you know, HBO or Warner Brothers in the States, it's much easier. You know, once you have a track record, it becomes much easier to attract these kind of talents and studios and whatnot.
Okay, thank you so much, Darko. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on. We have here our dear guest, Vlad Ryashin. He's a producer, founder of Star Media, one of the largest producers television content in the CIS region. He is the first one to bring Netflix to Ukraine, producer of The Last Mercenary 2020 for the Netflix friends. Hi, Vlad.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we can switch. We can switch on Russian, on Ukrainian as you wish, or stay in English. Whatever, what is best for you. Okay, so the question, the same question: how the 2020, how this pandemic had impact for your company, and maybe some challenges that you felt.
You know, it was a very interesting year, of course, and I can divide it in two very different parts of the year. So the first part of the year, which is ununderstandable for production companies, but because we couldn't, of course, shooting, and we can make only development and post-production, and that's all. And we don't understand how long will be lockdown in Ukraine, in other territories when we can shoot. And but at the same time, we can see the biggest growth of VOD platforms, of streaming platforms, of OTT viewers, and so on, all over the world. And of course, the world changed. And these changes we can see right now, and we will see next years, and I think not only next years. So now we are living in another world. And speaking about our company, of course, we started to shoot when lockdown stopped, and we started. I'm very happy that we started in Ukraine with Last Mercenary, which we produced in Apple Tree Company, which is our joint venture company with Jean-Charles Levy, who is our partner and speaker before, sometime before, and Oля Asbarko, of course. So this is joint venture company, which we joined some years ago, and this is our first project. During last year, we invested a lot of money in development of some co-production films, and so I hope that, as Jean-Charles also said, that the next year we will have minimum 4 projects, which some of them will be like a service for different another production, international production companies or platforms, and some others, of course, we want to make in co-pro. And in this case, as Jean-Charles also told, because we listened to his speech, it's very important that Ukrainian government supported by rebates production service in Ukraine this year, but it's very important to make next step because and I want to say and to make I want to say about this more, little bit more. Rebates for service increase the number of international projects which came into Ukraine. It's also commercials, and now we see features and then series and so on. But we in Ukraine, and Ukrainian viewers, of course, and Ukrainian government, of course, need to increase the quality and the number of Ukrainian projects, Ukrainian series and Ukrainian films with more high quality. And in this case, I think that the second step of the rebate program could be organizing rebate, to include into the rebate program co-production projects for international investment, for example, like one of the steps, and maybe even for internal investment, if it's not governmental support, if for example, it's local investment, so it also could be. Anyway, there are a lot of examples in the world and in Europe which we can use in Ukraine. One of them. It's very important, I think, for co-production projects, because, for example, for our company, not only Apple TV but also Star Media are now in the development process of a lot of different projects. And it could help, honestly speaking.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much. And what do you think about the distribution? Because we see the huge changes now. The cinemas really in a bad situation now. So what do you think? Your forecast, maybe?
Yeah, it's a very bad situation in cinema market in Ukraine, not only in Ukraine, all over the world. And in this case, of course, OTT platforms are growing and started to be a new big, huge market for different projects and also for the premieres. But on the other hand, for the crisis in advertising market, not only in Ukraine but all over the world, it's not good, of course, for OTT market too. So I think that right now and in the nearest future, of course, OTT platforms all over the world will be, I think, more and more important market for different kind of projects, not only for the series but also for the features.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let me introduce a new guest. We have here on the board Alla Bielaya. She's a great Ukrainian producer, and we know each other for many years. And Alla has worked as executive producer in STB TV, later Star Media company, and became a partner of group of companies Toy. Her recent project is Ukrainian-British thriller Legacy of Lies, featuring Hollywood action star Scott Adkins, and was shot in Ukraine, in England, and recognized by many festivals. Hi, Alla. How are you?
Fine.
Okay, so a few questions for you. Maybe the same questions because we have the same situation in country, and all we need to promote our country. And maybe you will say what steps should we do to make Ukraine an international player? Maybe your vision of it.
To make Ukraine international player.
Yeah.
We're already making Ukraine as international player by visiting international markets. Of course, it's not enough. It should be very big promotion of Ukraine like it did, for example, Poland or Romania. If you go, for example, to IFM market or to Toronto, you will see a lot of banners. We have tax rebates, 30-40%, welcome. It's safety country. So basically, a big promotion. Second, government supported those countries, for example, with international tours for producers. So they came to their countries, or local producers came to big studios to America, and result of this, those countries got some big services. So basically, as far as you know, this year we did some panels and invited Sony studio, and also in America we did some promo tours and met as well HBO, we met Netflix, we met Sony producers. From Scott Free Production came to Ukraine as well for location scouts. So my opinion is tax rebate that will be paid, and big and good promotion, because Ukraine has everything that needs to be basically for good service and good co-production. This is my opinion. That's why in all these markets and yeah.
Okay, thank you. And what are the main obstacles you face when you bring international team to work in Ukraine? Maybe you can see it.
I don't have any problems to bring international team. I did have problems to bring American actors, for example, in Ukraine, because at some point, like a few years ago, Ukraine was not so popular as other countries, and they ask questions: is the safety here? How is the weather here? Is it very cold here? So it was kind of concern. As you know, we met with you in Los Angeles, and I said I have problem to bring Hollywood star to Ukraine. But last, let's say 2 years, it was fine. I just I would say media situation has changed. So Ukraine is not, it doesn't sound anymore as a dangerous country. It's a more popular destination. Yeah, so now it's more easier, I would say, yeah. Especially when, for example, after Darkest project with HBO, after now Netflix came to Ukraine. So it's become more popular and people start talking about Ukraine.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next guest, we have Victoria Romashuk, CEO of Film UA Group. We all know this big studio and love this studio. Executive producer of Ukrainian Motion Picture Association and coordinator of Office of Humanitarian Policy of the Ministry of Culture 2019, founder of Kyiv Media Week and Teletriumph nominee. Most recent project, Mr. Jones, Ціна правди, with critically acclaimed director Agnieszka Holland. Hi, Victoria, how are you?
Yeah. Hello, hi, I'm good, thank you.
Good. Could you tell us, please, about maybe some issues that you had of this year, pandemic year, heavy year for all, and how your studio passed through these challenges? And maybe your interesting projects.
Hi everyone, it's my great pleasure to be here at this forum. I really think that this is very important initiative to have this forum, especially now. Please forgive me, I would switch to Ukrainian because I see that most of our audience listen to Ukrainian version of our discussion. So with all the respect to English-speaking audience, I'll switch to Ukrainian.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction. This forum is very important because the creative industries in our country are actually faced with some very hard times. It's not only about cinema and it's not only about the film industry. So I believe that going through this difficult time for the film industry, it is the unity with other creative industries that can help the film industry go through these difficult times. And at Film UA, we understand the power of partnerships, and all of the well-respected guests of this panel have had experience working and collaborating with at least one company of our group, and we value every partnership that we have. But now we are thinking a lot about this. A lot of things have been said about a difficult situation with cinema, about some problems and gaps with our law, and other hurdles that disallow us to make the fullest use of our potential. But all of this can be weathered if we unite not only within our industry, but at the global level of creative industries. My colleagues have sufficiently mentioned some key things. things. We've all gone through uncertainty, despair, fear of tomorrow, but much of that is already behind us. Now we're looking confidently into the future with curiosity and hope. More with curiosity, because now are those interesting times when you don't only have an opportunity to, but you actually have a necessity to look for new partnerships, new models, and new ways to continue working. And probably what's important in order to survive what's happening to us is to look at partnerships not only within your own boundaries and borders, but well outside them. Like Darko said, we have started with, some companies started with smaller videos and music videos and ads, and they finally graduated into working with Netflix. But these are still isolated projects. But I think one project is Mr. Jones, which is a huge co-production of Poland, Ukraine, and the UK. Everybody knows this film, needless to say, was directed by Agnieszka Holland. It was in the main program of Berlinale. And what's interesting about this film is that it has actually brought together a lot of elements of the creative industries. 2 books about Gareth Jones were published, and we have collaborated with the institutes of the Holodomor, Institute of Journalism, and other cultural, not only cultural institutions. This film has become actually the 5th best grossing films in Ukraine in 2019. And this success with the viewers was due to the fact that this film has united multiple elements of the cultural ecosystem around it. So in order to go through what's happening, it's important to think about partnerships and look a little bit outside your home. And that is the key thing, which I believe is vital. This is difficult, it's systematic work, a lot has been done, but we cannot stop right now. All we need to do is to build up the pace. A couple of days ago, we talked to the USAID team and thought, what if we could gather an all-star dream team where the best people could join, and we could create a company at the state level which would encompass the best people, and you could lobby the best projects, and you could try to work on these trailblazer projects. Because I think with many problems could emerge and some internal ambitions of some companies and participants, but joining one club, we could lobby it together. I don't know how realistic that actually is, but that was an idea that was on the table at some point. It's difficult to reply. But who are these best people? How do we select who is like the best person and who is like a meh person, you know? It's a discussable question. I mean, there's some grain of interest in this idea, but I think what our country and our government believes in is private-public partnerships, especially now. It's very important to unite not only within the industry, but also at the industry and private levels. Such partnerships are in operation in many countries, and it's much easier to move forward there when there is one goal and one set of tools which are understandable both to the industry and the state. This is something that is notably lacking right now, because the government seemingly understands what the industry needs, and the industry supposedly understands what the government needs, but sometimes some crisis happens and everything goes back to square one. So, yeah, thank you. Okay, let's keep moving on.
The next guest is Yuri Karnovsky. producer, experienced producer from Hollywood, from Ukraine. He working on both markets. Who co-produced the Ukrainian blockbuster The Rising Hawk and featuring Terminator 2 Hollywood star Robert Patrick. And hi, Yuri, how are you?
How are you doing?
What language do you prefer? You can speak English or
we can keep speaking English. No problem.
Okay. Okay. So tell us please about your 2020. How was tough for you and your challenges and your projects and your plans?
First of all, thanks for having me. And regarding 2020, it's challengeable. Definitely, we have few projects postponed due to uncertainty. Not here. I just flew from States and I saw crazy situation with production in Los Angeles. People are trying to improvise, and that's really hard, especially with, you know, A-listers and especially with their participants in current projects. So yes, for us, it's been a hard year, but we are struggling to do better. It's challengeable, but it brings us opportunity to create few TV series and few more motion pictures we are launching today. So it's challenging, but quite okay.
Okay, thank you so much. And I have a question maybe for all, because we have a really one big problem in Ukraine. It's a piracy, right? And we have to fight with this. But maybe somebody has his vision how the best steps how to fight this piracy, because we have issues, you know, with VOD platforms. Nobody wants to have a deal with us because of it. And maybe
we cannot fight piracy just with the notices and warnings. I think it's a deep issue with mentality. And of course, as usually, piracy came from poorness. And you have to work with poor people, with their minds, with their brains, with their ability to buy things easily, maybe 1 hryvnia. We need to deduct. We need to educate. This is the only chance how you can fight.
I agree. The education is most important, because most Ukrainian young people, they don't realize that they do something bad. You know, they oh wow, it's not a crime. So
we need to explain them that piracy is stealing somebody else's money and time, and it's bad. That's the only thing how you can fight it, starting with the kindergarten problem.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's got to be a cooperation with government, because we need a special law for it. Okay, thank you so much. Well, maybe somebody want to add something or to
Speaking about piracy, I want to say some words.
Thank you so much.
We have very interesting experience, which we started to use 4 or 5 years ago. When we started our channel in YouTube, and when we understood that all over the world viewers not searching, you know, brands. For example, they're not going to the site of Star Media or Channel Ukraine or somebody else. They're looking by genres, they're looking by some hashtags and so on. And after that, we started to looking for the pirates who are experts of piracy of our content. personally our, in different regions of the world. And after that, we found them. We found by IP addresses, and after that proposed them to work with us. And now they're working with us in absolutely legal conditions. And now we use their expertise how to distribute more effectively our product in different territories in the world. And now we have we are one of the biggest, I think, aggregator of Ukrainian Russian-speaking content all over the world. We have more than 16,000 hours of different projects and a lot of partners, not only our content. And more than 60 channels in our multi-channel net. And pirates, as I said, working with us, and they help us also to organize anti-piracy department. So we started to struggle with other pirates. Some of them, I had a very interesting meeting with the Minister of Digitalization of Ukraine, digital transformation of Ukraine. And we told them that some of the pirates, which are the biggest by the traffic of our content, I mean, traffic of our content in the world, some of them are Ukrainians. And we know their OTT addresses, we know even some of them of their mobile telephones. And we discussed with our ministry how we can use this information. So there's, of course, there are two cases, and I think that the combination of both of them could be effective. One of them, of course, it's law. It's law and different types of finding these guys and so on, and block these mirrors and so on. But on the other hand, the second way is if we and government know who are there, who are they, maybe we can also discuss with them. I think that we need to do both things. This is my experience, and now I hope that it could be effective.
Okay, thank you so much. I remember we started the company with the U.S. Embassy like a few years ago. Give chance to dream, дай шанс мрії, because we wanted to explain to young generations that they still dream of people, and it works. And but anyway, in US, I tried to use a piracy website just to make an experiment. And a few days ago after this, I received a letter from FBI that was a warning. We know you, do it. So it works. So we have to do something like that, because when the people see that it's stealing, they won't do it. So okay, and maybe someone want to give his vision of opportunities for Ukraine film industry in the upcoming years. It's like a last questions for all of you. Maybe you see what should we do, like.
I mean, as someone who was originally an outsider, but now I feel part of the entire system and watched it kind of grow for the last 22, 25 years, at least as far as our company's been. I think we're in a great place. I mean, you have so many talented people here that are doing such big jobs and growing, and and there's so much more opportunity. You know, if you take just the five of us, we've only done this much work. You know, sorry, you guys have done a lot more than me probably, but what I'm saying is the opportunities are growing so fast and so big. We don't really have amazing studios. We have a couple, you know, Film US is a beautiful place. There's a couple other small little places, but the opportunity for growth is so big. And what's nice is that you see these companies around us growing very quickly because of the work that we're able to afford them. The Patriots, the Filmotechnicas, the, you know, obviously they're bigger than Worldwide Film Detective, for example, but just in our own little market. And we still have not touched the surface of what our potential is, I think. So, you know, we say like, yes, I forget who said it, that we've only done a couple of projects with an HBO or a Netflix or this, but that's the floodgates, you know, from everything that I've seen. As soon as you make a little hole in that dam, it opens up very quickly. And I see that, you know, all the projects that these people are doing as far as, you know, developing stuff that's now, you know, that if they were doing it just for this market, it'd be hard to grow the projects they're doing on the level that they're doing it, but they're doing it for, you know, for a world market, which is amazing, as are we in another part of what we do. So I honestly believe that, you know, between people that probably watching or on this panel or whatnot, we're now making that hole in the dam. And I think that Ukraine's ready for a renaissance that countries like Prague saw probably about 10, 15 years ago with both their internal productions and their service productions. I think that what's the only thing that's keeping us is everybody around us. We need more talent, which we have, but we need more. We need more studios, we need more equipment, we need more of everything in order for all these people to be able to realize their ideas fast enough. That's all.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we should start from the good stories because we need new heroes and new stories. You know, gonna help us to present on the world arena. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just build on what Darka said? Just one remark. Yeah, we really did like this little to come closer to our goal. But what is important to understand and realize and remember each day that each other successful project, each well-provided service, each good made shot for post-production, each small step, no matter what company is doing it, bring us closer to our goal to be really important player of the international industry. And we all should really understand our responsibility for what we are doing on the international market and how people perceive us and how they view us. And each little small particular step of each company is really, really important. So I engage and call and ask all filmmakers, remember about that, and just not only think about money and income and whatever they are working.
Don't forget about it.
Yeah, right. Don't forget about it, but also remember that one particular company could not be successful on the market, which is not successful at the whole. So sustainability in this process is really crucially important. Thank you.
I mean, piggybacking off of each other, like Victoria said, is very important. It helps all of our showreels grow up and become important. And all of a sudden, whether Allah's going to talk to, you know, HBO, Showtime, whatever, it just feels comfortable that someone else has done it already. You know, if we do a small portion of HBO and then Film UA gets to do the post-production for it, all of a sudden, next project, we get to talk about the post-production that they've done in order to attract a bigger piece of the pie for those projects, you know. So we all should be piggybacking off of each other. I mean,
yes, of course, and I feel like it's very important to create kind of climate of success, like permanent success.
Absolutely.
Yeah, basically, each just wanted some small saying that each studio that we met ask about how big is our soundstage or how many sound stages we have, because Darko mentioned Prague. Why Prague so successful? What other countries so successful as well? Because they have huge sound stages. We have great technicians, it's true. We have very big, let's say, rental houses. It's also cool. We have great specialists, many crews. But sound stages is like crucial now for us as well if we want to catch big fish regarding I don't know, big TV series. Don't forget, we have cold 6 months in a year. And so basically, we should think about this time when just big studios will come and shoot constantly. Because we did some analytic that, you know, German studios are full, Prague studios are full. So it's also very, very important, not just 2,000 square meters soundstage is huge, big, with all equipment needed. It was biggest request. Like each studio that we came, they asked about it. So yeah, this is what I just wanted to say. How move forward with bigger productions, let's say. Yeah,
I think it will come. We just need to have like some time.
Of course, it's
wait and build and create.
Let's start from the good stories. I would say let's start from the good stories, because we should focus on new heroes in Ukraine to develop new history.
So far, so many risk factors we cannot control. So we need to.
Oh yeah.
To have more time.
Nobody know what's gonna happen in 2021. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's really important to that we can understand. It's really important to collaborate now and to unite.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to be on a panel. Thank you so much. Very nice to be on a panel with all of you guys. You guys are all doing amazing stuff, man. Thank you so much.
It's a big honor for me too, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great year.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I wasn't told. I had no direction.
Hey guys,
I was told to change my lighting.
we are starting. Доброго вечора.
Good evening, friends. Today we're going to have an incredibly exciting conversation with the creators of the Chernobyl TV series. This conversation will be held in English, so you can find the link for the Ukrainian interpretation.
Hello everyone. I'm honored to talk today with the creators of HBO miniseries Chernobyl. This conversation is possible due to the government of Ukraine's help and also USAID support. So Chernobyl, guys, it became a cultural phenomenon here in Ukraine. I watched it personally and it really shifted my perception. It shifted my perception of my own past, of the past of my country, and it also shifted my perception of the Ukrainian film industry. When I understood that like Darko's company was doing it in Ukraine, and I was looking at all these locations around Kyiv, I was like, wow, we did that. So it was, you know, a big step for the Ukrainian film industry. And I hope to discuss today with you, how did it happen? How to make it better? Where are we going next? What's our potential? And first of all, like, thank you so much for joining. I'm super happy to see both of you here.
Thank you, Yulia.
So we have Craig Mazin, who is the writer and producer and showrunner of the show. He's like a main mastermind behind the show. And we have Darko Skulski. He's running the biggest, the most successful production company in Ukraine, Radioactive Film. And he was doing that on the ground in Kyiv. He makes that happen. So first of all, Craig, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's 7 a.m. for you. Thank you so much for waking up to join this conversation. Tell me, like, how did it happen? How did you end up in Ukraine?
Well, I mean, ideally, we always want to go where the events took place. Almost the entirety of the story that we tell is in Ukraine, whether it's in Pripyat or in the town of Chernobyl or in Kiev. There's a few scenes, obviously, in Moscow because we're dealing with the government. There was a scene in Minsk because, you know, as everybody in Ukraine knows, maybe not in the West, Chernobyl, the power plant, and Pripyat, the town next to it, are just south of Belarus. So it's very much a border kind of area. So, you know, we want to be in the place. The interesting challenge for us was that we were telling a story about a power plant that does not exist the way it does now. That is to say, before an explosion. And of course, we're talking about an area that is under serious control because there is lingering radioactivity from the incident itself. So we have to make compromises, and that's not uncommon. You know, careful viewers, and maybe even not that careful viewers in Ukraine, can watch and go, okay, so Legasov is apparently in Moscow right now, but that's right here in Kiev. We know that street, you know, so we cheat and we move around all the time. Yeah.
Can't hear you guys.
I can hear you. I can hear everybody.
Yep, we can hear you too. You just froze a little bit. Oh, we can wait.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else. We can chat a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Darko, you know as well as anybody that when we go places and we shoot things, we're not always where we say we are in the story.
Well, of course, that's part of the secret of filmmaking, is that you try to make any location look unique to what the story needs, rather than where you're really at, right?
Yeah.
I think it's called movie magic or something. Is that what you call it?
Movie magic. There's a lot of it.
Yeah. Okay.
We spent, you know, a lot of time at, welcome back, Yulia. We spent a lot of time at the Ignalina power plant, which is in fairly northeastern Lithuania, or eastern Lithuania, because it was the sister power plant to Chernobyl. It looked like Chernobyl and it hadn't exploded. So there was a certain amount of that architecture still intact. We obviously had to do quite a bit to help it along. So we used various locations across Eastern Europe, largely in Ukraine, Lithuania, and just a little bit in Russia. We did it was mostly just second unit, you know, location, like establishing shots and things.
So how did your colleagues respond when you told them, like, hey guys, we're going to Ukraine? Were there like any doubts about that?
No, I mean, from the creative side, we wanted to do as much there as we could, because Kiev is, I mean, you're always looking at the size of a city. Sometimes you need a small city and sometimes you need a huge one. When we were talking about doing scenes that were set in Moscow, because we were not going to shoot in Russia for all sorts of reasons, then Kiev that's the place to be. It is a metropolitan city of a size and an architecture and a scope. And so we knew we were going to go there. There are other areas where we knew we had to go to Ignalina because we needed a nuclear power plant that looked like an unexploded Chernobyl. And then from there, what you start to do is look for places where things that could be anywhere. So we could shoot this here, we could shoot this here. Where would be the easiest, most cost-effective place to be that doesn't compromise your creativity? But from our point of view, we were, I think probably Johan Rank, the director, and I would probably have wanted to spend a little more time in Ukraine. But you know, partly we also have to look at things like, for instance, the fact that the production was part financed by Sky in the UK, which at the time was still in the European Union. And so being in...
Couple more days. They got a couple more days.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's important part of the question.
I know.
Why
well, you know, maybe they go and you guys go in. That would be nice, I think. So we there was a benefit to being in Lithuania, of course, because they were part of the EU, and so there's a certain economic benefit there that gets tied in.
So can you dig deeper here? So what was the reason of filming more time in Lithuania instead of Ukraine, like even when the things were happening in Ukraine?
Mm-hmm. Well,
so just be brutally honest.
Oh no, of course, I will. I mean, because it's not, there's no secrets. I think that the benefit of being in the EU is that there's been an exchange of talent and commerce that helps foster more capacity. The capacity for any country to have production come in from other places, but let's just say specifically the United States, is how expansive is the state support for shooting. That means economic support, usually in the form of some sort of tax break or refund,
Okay,
as well as
that's cash rebates.
Yeah, cash rebates, exactly. Then there's the question of permissiveness of the state when it comes to shooting in places that might be difficult to go, which is not always easy. I mean, it was not easy shooting at a nuclear power plant, I'll tell you that much, especially when it's technically under NATO control. And then it's about the crew. How much crew is there and how good are they? The more you shoot somewhere, the better the crew gets, because the more production, the more hiring, the more work, the more experience, and so on and so forth. We find that it's fairly common that in countries that with what I would say is an emerging film and television production industry, there is usually a good level of crew, oftentimes trained on commercials, more commercials that are coming from outside, perhaps more extensively than production from inside. But once you get past that level, then it starts getting trickier. If one production comes in, for instance, when we came into Lithuania, we sort of scooped up all of the people. We scooped them up. Yeah, we just took all the crew. We took them, and then other people came along and said, "Hey, where's the?" We're like, "Nope, we took them all." And ideally, you want multiple levels of available crew that are functioning at the kind of level that is required for productions that are many tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, US dollars in budget. So that's something that people like Darko are building right now and expanding out. And every time something happens, I imagine a little bit more happens. The other issue is obviously political security. We were thrilled to shoot in Kiev. It wasn't lost on us that part of Ukraine was involved in a war with I guess you could call them a superpower if you'd like.
A higher power.
Yeah, we'll call them an Eastern power. But that always makes people on the corporate side of things anxious. Anytime there is political strife or a sense of instability or threat to a production, they get nervous. That's not something that is specific to a place like Ukraine, which again was not. Obviously, we understood that Crimea and Donbass are there and Kiev is here, but it impacts how we shoot all over the world. There are areas, for instance, in Mexico where it is a joy for productions to go and shoot. There are other areas that are just dangerous because of the nature of drug trafficking. There are areas in the United States that are dangerous. We know that. So we're constantly thinking about those things. And then, you want to make sure that we're in a place where there is a pathway to legally to make production legally appropriate for us in the US. That means we can't be places where we used to bribe people all over. I say we, like not me. I've never bribed anyone in my life. I don't know how to do it. But in the past, Hollywood productions would go to other countries and bribe people to do things. And we don't do that anymore. There's obviously there's the laws, federal laws preventing us from doing that. And we're all very above board. So we need to make sure that we go somewhere where that doesn't occur.
On this job, it was very much in the forefront that everything should be 100% above board, HBO policy, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it was the first conversation that we had. Well,
so,
for 8 months.
How was it for you, Darko? Look, getting this project, bringing your people and then fixing all the things with the Ukrainian authority.
Well, I mean, for us, people, at least my friends look at us, and we've been doing this for 25 years, and they look at us and they see HBO and they say, "Oh, the 25-year overnight success story." Like we've been doing it for a long time to get to the point we're at, but people recognize the point we're at rather than all the years we've done. as far as getting the job, obviously it was challenging. It was great. I kind of knew I knew Johan for a while through the advertising music video world from days past. And when I heard that Craig and himself were doing this project, I kind of just started attacking as much as I could to try to get involved in it. I just wanted to make one thing clear. When you said like these are the creators of the project, I'm not the creator of the project by anymore. I'm a facilitator. You know, these guys did a lot of work to make this thing amazing, and we just kind of followed their lead to facilitate, trying to give them the best ability to fulfill their dreams, visions, whatever's in their heads, kind of thing, and kind
but,
of.
But you were the person actually who persuaded Craig and his team to
well, I think I did a decent job of trying to do so by attacking Johan. I knew some people, Kate at HBO. I didn't know her at the time, but now we're best friends because I called her so many times. I think I'm in denial. You know, when I saw this was happening, to be honest, something I knew about Johan from other jobs that we've worked on but not done together, but just bid on or whatnot. And then I saw, you know, as the project was going on, was the biggest thing, and you know, and I'm sure you're going to ask it, what was the biggest hurdle? It was making sure that their realization was authentic. That's all they cared about. That was all they cared about, down to, you know, pots and pans. You know, if you knew the Soviet Union in the time that this happened, everybody had the same pots and pans. Like we looked for those pots. You know, so it was about convincing them that we know what's happening then, or we knew what was happening then, and we are going to give it to you on a plate, on a silver platter, so you can just continue with your vision. So I think.
So did they, Craig? Did they give you everything on a silver platter?
Well, I don't see the silver platter, and what I see is, so I have the luxury, and this is why Darko's job is vastly harder than mine. I have the luxury of showing up and looking and saying, this is good, or what is this? That's my luxury. And Darko and his team, and there are so many people that work on this, are taking care of the invisible problems that I never even know are problems. If you want to shoot on a city street, you need to control the traffic. That is a huge problem. That involves law enforcement, involves the government, it involves other people, it involves crowd control and permits and businesses. It is insane, the amount of stuff that happens. We just watch a show and we just see someone cross the street, and we don't realize there's an army of people making that happen. And so the best compliment I can pay to Darko and to Radioactive's team and to Ukraine was that we didn't have a problem. That's what we're looking for. We will always have the problems I want to have are this: the actor is grumpy, someone forgot their lines, the camera's not working right, a light blew out. We'll fix it.
Cameras might.
Well, the problems I don't want to have are they're saying we can't shoot here today, even though we are supposed to be here today, or the people that we've hired to you know, build some rigging for something didn't build it right. Well, so that's what he does well.
To piggyback what Craig is saying, one of the great things that I think happened for us as a company because of this and during this project was the immense support of the government. And, you know, that's why I decided to come here today as well to speak, and obviously because Craig was here, but the government was, I think that this is for us, I don't know about everybody else, but this is when I think they turned the corner and understood, you know, we've done movies before. We've done, you know, we do tons of commercials. We do tons of music videos. You know, we shoot a lot. But this was the project where I felt the government was like, light bulb on, this could be important for the government. You know, this could be good. And they followed through with it. And we set up so many new policies for the government in order to fulfill all the needs that not only the director and the team wanted, but also that HBO as a financial institution or as a legal institution wanted. You know, the government changed for this project, and I think it changed for the better. And that is going to help filmmaking come down the line. You know, I mean, little things like how do you pay the police? How do you take care of street closures? How do you deal with this? You know, it all became institutionalized on this project, which we continue using 2 years later on all of our projects, which I think is a huge plus to the country. You know, just the transparency that this project brought out.
Well, it makes sense. Your president is, part of the business. He comes from that business.
And he was interested. I mean, as soon as the project was over, the first thing, he was interested in speaking with us and what's next. What can we do?
Here's how I knew he was interested. I knew he was interested because the last time I was in Ukraine, at the European Summit conference, that's where I met Yulia for some. He asked to see me, and I went to see him. Yeah. And this is what we talked about. What we talked about was how to make Ukraine an attractive destination for film and television production from overseas, because he understands, and anyone in that region looking around, especially take a look at places like Prague, for instance, you can see the economic benefit. Once everyone figures out that this is a place to go, they won't stop coming. You will have to push them away.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that gets spent is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. So good for him.
Has anyone in the US asked you about your experience of filming in Ukraine and about going to Ukraine?
Yes. Yes.
What did you say?
I said we had an excellent experience, and I mentioned Darko, of course. And by the way, and this is a good sign, I think, is that as Ukraine and film and television expands, as the Ukrainian industry grows, there will have to be some more Darkos, right? We can't just have one Darko. I know Darko wants to do it all. I know he does, but more Darkos will come. But the point is, I can say, okay, here's who to talk to, and also note that there is a president who comes from the film and television business, who understands and understands the economic benefit of this. The country is absolutely invested in doing this the right way. But then I also have to balance it out by pointing out some things that are true that, are somewhat of a challenge. If you are an EU production, it's going to be difficult. It's not difficult because it's impossible to do. It's difficult because your competition is now every other country in the EU.
Right.
And that's where it gets tough. So as regardless of what the United Kingdom is doing right now, which is insane, in my humble opinion, the future clearly is economic alliance. That is how you get to play on the same level playing field. Because right now, Ukraine does have a challenge. It's competing with Lithuania, it's competing with Latvia and Estonia and Poland. No, that's, talking about just places to go, even if we're just talking about making stories that take place in Eastern Europe, and you want to be authentically Eastern European, authentically, let's say, Soviet era or just post-Soviet era. That's your competition. And every single country I just mentioned is in the EU. And so that's the trick.
Craig, but is Kyiv and Ukraine in general still authentic? Is the architecture, exteriors, interiors?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, some of it. I mean, we're very good. So we have these amazing abilities to just fix little things. Like if you watch this, there's a scene in it's the final episode of the series. It's early on where Legasov is getting some cigarettes from a kiosk, and then he walks down a street and there's a KGB agent. And that street is a very big street in Kiev. Everybody who looks at it knows what it is. And so what did we do? Well, we put that kiosk there. We put the signage there. We then digitally erased some Christmas decorations that had been up, or some kind of interesting street decorations that were very Ukrainian and not Soviet, and fix some signs. We can do these things digitally. They're easy. What we can't do is replicate the specificity of buildings that we know were built in the Soviet era. Those buildings, the library where we, that was that the State University Library?
The Vernadsky Library, I believe.
Yeah. You can't, that we cannot make, right? That is authentic. That is from a time period that is appropriate. And we love those little places that haven't changed that much. That's what we're always looking for. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are places that are preserved historically. So for instance, the KGB prison that we used for episode 4, I think, was a preserved KGB prison in Vilnius. It's a museum now. So they preserved it. Perfect for us. So certainly I would say to the people of Ukraine, even as it moves ever forward and happily forward from the Soviet era, to try when you can to preserve the history where you can in the right context. So in, I think the name of that museum in Vilnius is like the Holocaust Museum, which is not what I call the Holocaust, but it's what they call the Holocaust. It's fine. KGB, I understand, is very bad. And so preserving your history, your architecture, those old structures, that is important. It helps make the city endlessly attractive, because I can shoot in one day, I can point this way, and Darko understands the value of this. I point this way and I have a shopping center, and then I just point this way. I don't have to move anywhere. And there is a building that was constructed in 1925. Mwah, lovely, love that.
That is a good message. I love it. We have to save Kyiv, Ukraine as it is. So, like, now it sounds all very good, but guys, did we have some like challenges and hard moments between each other, like while working?
I don't think there was any challenging moments. I mean, I have to say the people that wear boots on the ground. I mean, Craig had one stern conversation with myself, and it wasn't stern. It was more of make sure that my creatives get what they want. We had a dinner together. He was very. I don't remember the rest of the conversation, but I felt like there was a finger pointing in my head just to make sure they get what they want. And, you know, and I think, you know, like if we talk about challenges in general, literally the challenge became almost a fun game for our team, because the challenge was keep it authentic. And I mean, I don't remember the scene. I don't remember which episode, but there's a pushing on a dolly where we're in someone's kitchen and the pots and pans and the spaghetti strainer is up on the wall and whatnot. You do not know how long our local props people, because they were put in their head, it's got to be authentic. 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 And at the time, the Soviet Union, there wasn't 15 versions of a spaghetti strainer. There was one orange one, you know, that was what there was. And for them to go find it and talk about it and think about it and argue with it, was it green? Was it orange? Was it green? You know, like, you know, another great one with that I actually had the privilege of being in conversation with one of the prop guys was, if to all the people watching that were alive during the Soviet Union, there's a gear shifter that even when I got here was here on every single car. It was a rose inside of a piece of plastic, and that was the knob on the gear shifter of every Lada, and it was an attachment that people put on after sale. And there was an argument about whether it was done after 85 or before 85, like for 25, 30 minutes with these kids. And it was way before it got to Johan and our production designer and everybody else. They were so into this challenge of make it authentic that I don't want to say it was it was a burden. It was a challenge, and it was loved, and it was embraced, and it was, you know, one more thing just real quickly. I remember our local art director working with the production designer on their side, stopping the shoot because there was on an old Lada American tires. And going, whoa, 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 whoa. And everybody was like, just let it be, just let it be, just let it be, just let it be. But he stopped it. He was like, no, 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 that's not authentic, you know? So it got to really like minuscule little, so happy. Yeah. It got to really, really detailed things that these guys were so taking on the challenge. They were pushed for it. They were pushed and pushed and pushed. But at a certain point, their minds switched, and you know, and challenge became the game.
HBO, I don't think had shot much in Ukraine prior to this.
No, not to this. Yeah.
And so part of what poor Darko had on his shoulders was not just doing what is already a difficult job, but trying to explain to us the specificities of how that job worked in Ukraine. And on our side, our thing was in a loving way, we don't care, right? Like that's your problem. Like that's the whole thing is, Darko, you're going to have a very difficult couple of months here. There's no question. It's going to be hard. It is going to be really hard. And we kind of want you to just solve those problems, because this is ultimately, we have our own problems of what we're doing over here. But the most important aspect is what he just said, which is that it's done with love and care. Because it's not enough to say, I got you, your street, your apartment, your place. Everything also there with props, design, every texture on a wall, the tires on the cars. These are things that we were obsessive about. And we were obsessive about because I know, look, My family, my ancestors are all from, well, what was once Poland, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, you know, the big, huge, you know, before the borders came in. This is where we're from. And these are my people. I've grown up with them and I know them. And I know that if you get things wrong, you never stop hearing about it. And I'm like the same way too. You know, so Dora Komiak, who's a mutual friend of Yulia's and I, she told me a story when I first started working on this. She said that many years ago, there's a show on American TV called ER, a medical show. And I guess in one episode, there was a Ukrainian couple that came in and the hospital did something very nice for the husband. And so the Ukrainian woman gave the doctor an egg, a Ukrainian Easter egg, except it was wrong. It wasn't right. They just had done the wrong kind of egg completely. And apparently the switchboard at NBC lit up all night. Every Ukrainian in America calling and saying, that's not right. That is not right. And I understand that. And now I'm dealing with all of these. To me, it's a benefit that there's one spaghetti strainer. I love that. So we need it. We need it, you know? And that part of the process was wonderful. And what we found in Ukraine and in Lithuania was that people who had been there in the Soviet period cared to get it right. They would argue with each other, which was a joy for me to watch. So this way, I don't have to argue with. When people came at us early on, we showed the trailer for the show, and a bunch of people, Russians, were like, this show's gonna stink, because they showed the firefighter and he had a red army star on his helmet, and they didn't wear that. The show's stupid. They don't know what they're doing. But sure enough, we knew that they were paramilitary firefighters and that they did have the red star in the helmet, which you can still see because the helmets are still there in the basement of the hospital. So we brought it. We have the goods because we're working with people who are there. And that's something that I thought our Ukrainian team led by Darko did brilliantly.
That's amazing. So speaking of crews and talents, in one of your interviews, Craig, you said that some nations are more confident than others. So speaking about Ukrainians and Ukrainian film professionals, are they confident about their talent?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Ukrainians are very confident, without question. I think, you know, Ukraine, boy, I never thought I would be hearing more about Ukraine in the last year than I did in the year before, but it seems like this is the destiny of Ukraine. It has always been sitting in this fascinating place, just geographically. It is Europe. It is the eastern end of Europe. It is the western end of whatever we would call the Slavic Empire. And it has always been such. It is, and because of that, Ukraine has an inherent sense, there's an inherent tension, and there is, as you know, always a threat in the air, because it is trying to go somewhere, which means it hasn't gotten there yet. And when you're trying to go somewhere, there are always people who are trying to steer you this way or that. And it wasn't surprising to see Ukraine suddenly become this, you know, the object of political obsession here in the West as well. And I think it's going to continue to be that way. The important thing for the Ukrainian film and television industry to project is a sense of security and an assuredness that despite whatever headlines you may see, and despite the continuing infraction by Putin into the East, that Ukraine is a safe, secure place, and it is a well-developed place that can support these kinds of things, including, I mean, a show from HBO, which is the premier television production entity in the world. Yep. And they acquitted themselves beautifully. Ukraine performed beautifully. But there is going to continue to be that challenge, because the situation there, you can just tell, is changing. And we haven't arrived at the conclusion of the Ukraine story. It continues.
Darko, how do you communicate in this safe Ukraine? Like we know it is safe, but how do you do that? And what are the next projects that you're bringing here?
Well, I mean, for us, we've been, Radioactive's been around for 23 or 24 years now. So, I mean, I joked about it earlier that the overnight success story. It's been a buildup. It's been banging on doors. It's been talking to people. It's been doing smaller projects. Doing small music videos, then doing a Coldplay music video, and doing small commercials, and then doing Apple commercials, or and then starting to do smaller movies, and then doing Warner Brothers, and then doing an HBO. And then all of a sudden, you do those projects, you have it behind you, and it's a lot easier to explain yourself to other people. You're already starting to talk about what the project is, rather than why, then is it okay to come? At this point, I think that with the projects that we've done, we put Ukraine on the map enough that when we do go to an HBO or Paramount or whatever, we're actually talking about what benefits we can bring to them or why we're doing it, rather than convincing them that it's a safe location or whatnot. We've been working on projects. I mean, we've been actually one of the busiest as far as my sphere of work, which I do services, post-creative kind of stuff. We've been one of the busiest, companies through this pandemic and whatnot. But it's very challenging. I mean, projects get stalled. We were just doing a big Quibi. If you, Craig, maybe you saw Quibi, the Quibi project that everybody's talking about. They got frozen. That was me. That was so yeah. Hey, yeah,
What are you gonna do?
I understand. I get it.
Yeah.
But so we have been active. We've been shooting things like that. Other companies have also been doing projects. There was just a Netflix project that was shot here recently with Jean-Claude Van Damme, megastar. And we're trying to continue. We have our we're still bidding and we had projects in pre-production that got paused out that were both independent and studio films. That I think will come back. I think it's going to be a case of waiting out the first quarter of next year. But I personally think that Ukraine has grown so much in the 25 years that I've been involved in the filmmaking business here, that everything is growing. Yes, and what's great is we've only touched the surface this much. We're only now starting to do projects that matter, and it's a handful. It's 5, 4, 2, 3. Kind of things. And as soon as the dam breaks, I think I said it in the last panel I was on, as soon as it's going to be flood of projects like Prague had, like Romania had, like this. And what's great is that we're developing more people, more equipment, more rental houses, studios everybody's talking about. We're talking about them. So as soon as all these things happen, it'll just be another viable country. Sorry, it already is a viable country. It'll just be another country on the list that it's very easy to work with. That's
an equal choice list.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And
I have a question for you. Here's my question for you, for both of you. Does Ukraine currently have a state office that is essentially an office of film and television production? So it does?
You mean the Film Commission, yeah?
Yes.
So it is not currently, but we are hoping and planning and moving towards it.
Good.
There's a lot of support from from organizations like USAID, and also from the government itself to go ahead and finish up this film commission, as well as to ease the film credit, the tax credits and things like that.
That's what I spoke about with the president when I saw him, and
basically,
yeah, and that's what I think is, if there's one thing I could point to and say that would make things easier for Western production to come in, it's knowing that there is a government office that is tied directly into the state, that is helping to both promote Ukrainian film and television production, but also promote what Ukraine offers specifically. And finally, and most importantly, is explicitly extending a kind of official governmental welcome. Then there is no question that you are going to have the support you need. They're the ones who can say better than, see, because poor Darko, I have to yell at Darko and say, I need to shoot there, figure it out. But I don't want to have to yell at Darko, and Darko shouldn't have to really figure that out. Darko should know I talk to so-and-so and they give me the permit. That's how this works. We have an understanding that the government supports this. And so that's something that I really hope Ukraine can get going as soon as possible.
I think that it's just there. It's just the beginnings of it. It's happening because I'll tell you what, all of the Ukrainian government has, I have their number in my phone. They've given it to me and said, please call.
So you know, maybe it should be you.
I got enough. I got a decent amount of
I don't know. Don't you want to be a minister? I don't know. That seems nice. Maybe it should be Yulia. Yulia would be great.
Yulia, let's put Yulia up for ministry. But I mean,
yes.
But they've been super supportive from the mayor's office. The Minister of Culture has been incredible. I cannot talk enough about how much the Minister of Culture's office has helped out the entire film industry. Myself, I can just roll off, like a number of things. I mean, to the point where when they know things are happening in the country, they'll call and say, how would this affect your business? Or like, not just your business, but the industry business. Like, what do you think, if there's a lockdown, what's the safest thing the industry could do? So you're part of the dialogue all of a sudden, which I think is, I don't think many companies like myself in the world can say the Minister of Culture and the mayor's office is interested that my company does well,
Right.
So the government, hats off, from the president on down, everybody, thank you very much if they're listening.
My new idea is that Yulia is the minister of, I think you put her in charge.
I'll vote. If I could get to vote,
yeah.
Totally.
We're not voting for the minister. So
That's the point.
Every different film production is playing a role of this organization of the Film Commission. And of course, we are moving toward creating an independent and strong body, which will speak for the industry and support it in getting international contracts. So I hope our next conversation will be presenting this office.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, we are running out of time. I'm immensely grateful that you joined, Darko.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored, Craig, man. I'm gonna keep shooting you. I'm gonna keep shooting you whatever I got.
I like it. I like it. Keep going, man. Keep doing it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Shoot new projects in Ukraine and let's make Ukraine a global creative destination together.
Well, I'll talk to this guy.
Thank you, Yulia.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Darko. Bye-bye.